Hi Luciana, thanks very much for letting Gigi and us come down to Westminster today to interview you for our Young Workers Mental Health campaign.
That's great.
My name's Ross.
My name's Ruth. I'm Ross and Ruth, and welcome to Westminster.
Thank you very much. We'd like to talk to you today about your work as Labour's Shadow Minister for Mental Health, the first position of its kind, and the issues faced by young people experiencing mental health issues at work and society, as well as your thoughts on how trade unions, employers and the Labour Party can help raise awareness and provide support.
Great, yeah, some really important issues. Look forward to having a chat.
As Shadow Minister for Mental Health and previously Shadow Minister for Public Health, what makes you passionate about mental health and what have you been focusing on so far in your new role?
Well, I'm really passionate about mental health, and I've had the privilege of leading for Labour on this issue since back in October 2013, when I was asked to be the Shadow Minister for Public Health. When I was doing that role, we integrated mental health alongside everything around prevention. So how do we keep people well? Everything from what we eat to what activity we do to things like sexual health, children's health. It's a really wide brief. And we put mental health in there because we were thinking about it as a Labour Party in terms of prevention. And I think that's absolutely key, really crucial that we think about how we prevent mental illness in the first place. So I was doing that, juggling lots of balls, until I was asked by Jeremy Corbyn back in September to take on the role as Shadow Cabinet Minister for Mental Health. And in this role, I'm only focusing on mental health. However, I do that while I work very closely with Heidi, and Heidi's our new Shadow Secretary of State for Health, and I'm doing my very best to hold the government to account on things when it comes to health services around mental health. There's massive issues that there's a real inequality and that we still treat mental health very differently to how we treat physical health. It's my job to think about mental health a bit differently, and my role has been created to think right across government departments what more we can be doing with the Department for Education, what we can be doing with the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills, so thinking about the workplace, what we can be doing with the Department of Work and Pensions, what we can be doing with our Department of Communities and Local Government and Housing, to really think about mental health very differently and actually preventing mental illness in the first place. And that's what I'm really focused on doing.
Brilliant. So what lies ahead in 2016 for Labour under Jeremy Corbyn as a new leader in regards to mental health? We've heard a lot from Andy Burnham in the past about merging health and social care services together, and that was Labour's manifesto position back in 2015. I've also heard a lot from yourself recently on the crisis in mental health funding under this government, and obviously the importance of early intervention, as you just said. So without giving too much away, can you give us an idea on what we should be looking out for this year coming up?
Definitely, and I'm delighted to do so. So there's so much that we need to do, and the Labour Party wants to be at the forefront of the campaign to really tackle the discrimination and stigma that still exists around mental health, to hold the government to account, to ensure that we can actually see equality for mental health that people right across the country rightly deserve, and also to think about mental health and to think about our policy going forward in terms of prevention. So we had a big debate in Parliament. It was a big opposition day debate on mental health just before Christmas, and in that we put forward a motion calling for three things. So the first thing we called on and called for was to really address the opaqueness when it comes to what's actually happening within mental health. We have no idea what's being spent. We have to do freedom of information requests. It's really in the dark because the government scrapped the annual survey which looked at mental health spend. So my first ask in that motion was to reinstate that annual survey so we can really understand what's going on, because it's so difficult at the moment. It's really hazy, and people are really fighting to get that clarity on what's happening on the ground. The second thing within that motion that we called for was to look at the NHS constitution. So at the moment within our National Health Service, we've all got a right to access physical health services. We've got a right to have drugs for any sort of physical health conditions, but none of us have a right to access talking therapies, to access psychological therapies. And we think that's, if you were serious about equality for mental health, then we should be treating treatment for mental health in the same way as treatment for physical health. So in that motion we called for enshrining a right to talking therapies in the NHS constitution. The third thing that we called for was actually a proper strategy which looked at mental health, not just from the Department of Health, but right across government, thinking about it in terms of prevention, because if people are having to access mental health services, at that point it's too late. we can't prevent every single mental illness, but there's so much more we can be doing in our schools, in our colleges, in our universities, in our workplaces, in our communities, to really think about how important it is and what we can do to prevent mental illness in the first place. So that's what we called for. The government voted against that motion, the Tories voted against it. I think that was really, really, really disappointing. That's 3 of our key things that we're campaigning on going forward. And also I'm very keen on proactively looking at what we can be doing positively in mental health. And so aside from really doing as much as possible as things like this, tackling that stigma and discrimination, talking about mental health, it's absolutely normal, it's absolutely right that we should be talking about it. It's a shame we've got to do it, but we're going to carry on doing it. But actually thinking about what we can be putting forward as an alternative, as a really positive alternative that's really going to make a difference. So I'm doing some work with Lucy Powell around what happens in our schools. That's going to be coming forward. Doing some work with John Healing around housing and mental health. I'm doing some work with some external bodies around the impact of debt on mental health on debt. Really some important work to be done around there. I'm working very closely with my colleagues in the Department of Work and Pensions and National Team, thinking about the impact of the Tory government's welfare reforms and the impact that's had on people when it comes to mental illness, and thinking about how we might do things differently.
Speaking more specifically about mental health issues, TUC research has found that 1 in 6 British workers are affected by conditions like anxiety, depression and stress, with increasing number of young workers reporting that they are experiencing mental health problems. Not only this, but the associated cost of poor mental health in the workplace now amounts to nearly £26 billion a year. What issues do you think are causing this rise in cases, and what impact do you think austerity is having, particularly on young people?
Well, there's a massive cost to our country as a result of mental illness, and it's not just, you highlighted the £26 billion cost in terms of the workplace. Actually, the cost to our whole of society is £105 billion a year. It's absolutely staggering. This is why I'm really concerned about mental health, because we should be looking out for each other. We should be thinking about how we can support people to maintain their relationships with their friends and their family, to be able to keep their homes, be that a tenancy or a mortgage. There's so many different things that can be affected. But we also, there's lots of people that are really interested in the economic arguments as well. So it's all really important that we, have that focus that at the moment I don't think we see from the current government. And our trade union is absolutely key and crucial to all of this. They've done some really important work, and there was another study that came out recently that showed too many people in the workplace wouldn't feel comfortable speaking to a manager to say why it was they were off sick, if it was because of a mental health condition. We've still got so much work to do around tackling that stigma and discrimination. So in the debate that we had before Christmas, I was very keen to shine a spotlight on actually how some of the government's own reforms, having and of themselves, increase people's levels of anxiety. We know from various reforms that the Department of Work and Pensions have done that they've actually made people's mental health worse. And there was a report done for the mental health charity Mind, which showed that overwhelming proportion of people are negatively impacted by what the government's done. That's not acceptable, and actually we should be doing everything possible to foster a really positive country, and actually thinking about people's mental health in the same way that we do about their physical health. And people have got to take responsibility. We're certainly going to do that as the opposition and as the Labour Party.
So just the last questions, sort of follow on from that. Obviously, as you know, campaigns from across politics, including trade unions, Labour parties, we were talking about, and mental health charities like mine. It's great he's actually mentioned that. We're all working hard to raise awareness on mental health, challenging stigma and increasing support for people experiencing those issues. As Charlie Minister for Mental Health, is there anything you believe trade unions, employers and the Labour Party can do together to help raise awareness and provide support on mental health, both at work and in society?
Well, I think there's some really fantastic initiatives that so many trade unions are doing, supported by the TUC, to really address this issue. We're here today talking about it for the GMB, and I'm really looking forward to joining the GMB's Equality Conference in Cardiff in a couple of months to specifically talk about mental health. I was asked by another trade union only last week, UCAT, which is the construction trade union, to join them at a conference specifically looking at mental health and the workplace. I'm going to be doing the same with USDOR, which is another trade union. Trade unions are absolutely key because ultimately they look after their members, they know the issues facing their members, and they can really reach out and support their members when it comes to these kind of issues. We've got quite a bit of work, I think, to do with employers. There's some really great examples across the country where employers do acknowledge and recognise their employees' mental health conditions, but that's not the norm, and we need to do even more to challenge that situation. As the Labour Party and as the Shadow Cabinet Minister, I'm keen to work with as many people and organisations as possible to carry on tackling that stigma and discrimination, that taboo that still exists, because it's not right that too many people, there's still too many people that feel that they can't come forward and discuss their mental health condition in the same way that they would for a physical health condition. If we can normalise it even more, then I think we can help a lot more people, and I'm looking forward to doing even more as the weeks and months pass. I think we're on a journey. I think we've made some progress, but we've still got a bit to do, and I'm absolutely convinced that together, trade unions and the Labour Party and those charities can make even more of a difference and a really positive change.
Thanks for letting GMB young members come down. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and hearing your expertise on mental health and young people for our Young Workers Mental Health campaign.
Well, thank you, and I wish you every success in the campaign. It's so important and you're really doing a fantastic job, so I look forward to supporting you in any way that you'd like me to going forward, and thanks to both Ruth and Ross for coming to join us today.
Thanks. As I said, as it's the start of our campaign, we've got a lot of exciting events coming up nationally for GMB young members. So yeah, we'd love it if you could come on future campaigns this year. Just one last note. We thought, as Labour's Shadow Cabinet for Mental Health, do you have a message for young people across the UK? And so, many of which will be voting for the first time in local and national elections in the next few years. Just thought, if you have a message at all.
Of course, we've got elections coming up. It's only a few months away until we'll have council elections in lots of different parts of the country. We've got elections in Scotland and in Wales. We've got the elections for the police and crime commissioners in some parts of the country, including where I represent in Liverpool. We've got mayoral elections. I just urge any young person to make sure you use your voice, use your vote. If you haven't registered already, please make sure that you do. My party's campaigning to actually reduce the voting age down to 16 because we like to see even more younger people take part in our democracy and have their voice heard. Please use your vote on election day. These elections really do matter. It's who will represent you locally. It's who will represent you in terms of your police and crime commissioner. And if you live in Scotland or Wales, who will represent you locally. And as a Labour MP, I'd urge people to look at the Labour Party, which is the values that bind us together, and why we're here today is because we believe that we are a better country and better communities, and we look out for everyone, not just as individuals, look out for a few people. So that's what we're ultimately campaigning for as a party. We're really committed to mental health as well.
Great, thank you very much, Luciana.
Thanks.